Hey guys, welcome to Your Beautiful Day on the Gratitude Radio Network. I'm Jen Mogg, Mother of Gratitude, and I hope wherever you're going today that you find some gratitude and inspiration in your life. And today we have the great syndicate. We have Neil Haley. Hello, Neil.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? I'm
I'm doing
excited
good.
about our guest for sure.
I love it. And then my life coach, because God knows I need one, Pearl Sharenza. Hey, Pearl.
Hey everybody, hope you are having an amazing day. This is going to be a lot of fun.
This is going to be great. Thank you guys for being with me today. And I'd like to introduce our guest, who is pretty amazing in herself, Maureen Johnson. She's an author, and her book is Hello, Cruel Heart. Welcome, Maureen.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Hey, Maureen, how are you? And so this has been crazy. You're a New York Times bestselling author, right, Maureen? Kind of give a little bit about your background before getting to this book, to people know that you've been writing for a while and stuff, for sure.
Yeah, I'm a YA author, which is young adult, and I've written, let's see, 15, 16 novels. I've also worked collaboratively with other YA authors like John Green and Cassandra Clare. I had with John Green and Laura Markle, had a movie out on Netflix called Let It Snow, which some people may have seen, which is a Christmas movie. But Hello, Cruel Heart is my first project with Disney.
Awesome. All right, go, Jen. First question for Maureen.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I love Disney. Tell us about Hello, Cruel Heart.
Well, Hello, Cruel Heart is the prequel to what you'll see in the upcoming Disney film Cruella, which is the origin story of Cruella de Vil, which is a little hard, right? Because she's nobody's favorite. She hasn't got a lot of redeeming qualities. You don't look at Cruella de Vil and think, now there's someone with a lot of varied interests. But I got into this, Disney approached me and said, we're making this Cruella film and we really like to develop her backstory as a teenager. And so what we see in Hello, Cruel Heart is it's 1967 London. It's swinging London. It's one of the coolest times to ever be in London. Everything's happening in terms of music and fashion and art. And in this mix is Estella, as Cruella is called, who lives with Jasper and Horace in the Lair, which is half of a bombed out building, because at this point, London is still half wrecked from World War I. And so they live in this amazing place that you'll get to see in the movie as well, which is a bombed out but amazing space. And she is a fashion designer, but she's very poor. They have to steal to make their money and survive. But she's determined to make it in the fashion world. And she steals cloth and she makes clothes. And she finally gets her break one day when she meets a very rich brother and sister who introduce her to the world of London society, fashion, and rock and roll. And the story takes off from there.
All right. Go ahead, Pearl, your question. Maureen.
I'm so excited to see read about the book. I actually ordered it today. And then also I can't wait to see but what I wanted to know is, what was it like to flush out the teenagers of such a iconic Disney villain?
Well, it required some thought. This story arcs into what you see in Cruella. And just for reference, the film takes place in the mid 70s. So she's in her 20s in that point, and it's punk London. So I read the script. I got to see all of the assets. I got to see all the creations of that point. And then I really worked with that as the center point. And then I dialed back to London in 1967 and really dug down into what might influence someone who is 16 years old and is poor at that particular junction of time, which the reason I wanted to do this is because that is since I was about 13 years old, one of my deepest, most profound obsessive interests is everything that was going on in swinging London, everything that was going on with music, with all of it. So I had years and years and years of just knowledge that was not good for anything else. But I was finally called upon to do the one thing that I've been prepping for my entire life. And that is this, talking about what an amazing time period this was, and setting someone in the middle of it was incredibly fun.
I love the creativity of that because you're pulling from just a plethora of creativity that's been inside of you forever. I'm writing, so I understand. I write screenplays. And just to have that knowledge and finally have somewhere to put it out, especially Cruella. I always liked, for some reason, I always loved 101 Dalmatians. And I just thought her character was just extraordinary.
Yeah,
Just
she's
extraordinary that they would write. This is very gutsy, and no pun intended, but this is a very gutsy thing for Disney to put on. And by the way, we skin animals, and that's what she wants to do, and it's a kid's book.
well, that's Jodie Smith. She is an amazing writer and has always been one of my favorites, especially her book, I Capture the Castle, which is one of the incredible classics of young adult literature, which was written in the 50s. She is a very strange and extraordinary writer. She wrote a book called The Starlight Barking, which is about space dogs who are trying to save the planet. I mean, it's not what you expect. So I tried to always remember what would Jodie Smith do, because this is Jodie Smith's character.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that backstory. And now I guess the backstory when the movie comes out, but no one really knows that character. And it's always interesting to look back to their childhood, right? Or their mid-age and what kind of led them into that villain that they are today. Or anytime you look at someone's story, you have to look at their childhood, especially their teenage years in certain ways. And that's why you're that type of writer, right? Because that's a perfect time where everyone's developing and figuring out who they are.
It's a time of firsts. And that's, I think, what really defines YA, is that you're seeing a lot of firsts happen. First loves and first heartbreaks and first experiences away from home and all the things that you have to do for the first time and the deep impression that makes on you. So it's a very rich time in life to write about, which is why I do it.
So talking about impressions and experiences. So did you take any of your inspiration that you use? I loved that you where you used to work, like the restaurant where it was like a horror restaurant, I think I remember reading.
It's a haunted house restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then also you filled in, like you made it look like there's more employees there than what was really there. So did you like take any of that inspiration and use it while you're writing the book?
Well, I certainly have had a lot in the past. When I first moved to New York, I moved here to become a writer and go to graduate school. And I worked in theater and I wrote and I went to graduate school, which meant I was broke constantly and had to take every single job that came down the path. And a lot of those were weird. And I definitely know that feeling of you're always sort of on the lookout for another gig, another job, another way to pay the rent. And this story, which is Cruella trying to survive. And I mean, hers is a little more extreme. She's an orphan. She lives in a bombed out lair and steals. Like this is what's great is that Disney does a great big story. You don't usually get the little ones. You get really great villains and really great heroes and really great big arcs. But I did get to unpack a little bit of my experience. For example, as a kid, I wanted to be a writer and I just wrote all the time. That's all I did. And I thought I want to be a writer, but I don't know how that happens. This is just something I do in my room. And that is Estella trying to make her clothes. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to sit here and make these clothes. And then eventually I'm going to get over there and become a fashion designer. But how you make that leap from what you do at home to what you want to be is a great big question mark that I'm very familiar with.
I have to look back at what I was thinking at that time, because I kind of gone full circle to that in certain ways. I always, like when I was a kid, I always was into radio. I was always into like play-by-play and sports and just all these different things. Then I ended up going a different route. And then I look at myself today and a lot of those characteristics were there. And Maureen, I think that's the fascination of looking at people and their direction and journey, where it might take them a long time to really get what their true inner child is.
Yeah. And figuring out how to take that and put it into the outside world, how to take that passion you have and do that career that you may not know. I certainly didn't know how people became writers. I was like, it was just giant question marks. I had absolutely no clue. So likewise, writing about someone who wants to become something and has no idea how is definitely something I relate to.
And then I look at even what my radio journey 11 years ago to now social audio, and Jen will know understand that more. And now finally finding my passion in social audio, which is really weird. It wasn't working as much because there's not enough back and forth in podcasting and radio as there is in social audio. And I'm like, wow, what a perfect fit. Just giving that as a plug in some ways of we do these things and they might not hit the mark, and then they finally do hit the mark. And that's the weird thing about journeys. But go ahead, Jen. The next question.
Hey, well, I was wondering, what was the piece that you wrote or your breakout article that inspired Disney to come for you and ask for you to do this?
I don't write, I'm not a journalist, so I don't write pieces that often. But I have been, I've written, like I said, 15 or 16 novels. So I guess in YA, people, they just approached me because of my background.
So it was your style of writing that they said this would be perfect?
I guess so. I hope so. I mean, they just
you're the good one of you. Are you one of the go-tos, Maureen, in YA, you think, or what would you say?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't often take on project. I usually do my own novels as opposed to taking on projects like this. But it was what drew me to it was the period and I wanted to write about that period. And so my agent said, would you consider this one? What do you think about it? And I was like, I want to write about London in 1967. I want to do that. Give that
to me immediately.
Oh, yes, that was me.
Exactly. Good, Pearl. Next question.
So I'm an author. I've written some just like self books about business and things like that. And so what would you say, Maureen, is the biggest challenge in today's world for YA artists and publishers?
Well, that's a hard one because YA was a widely expanded field. I've been writing YA novels since 2004. So I've seen just how the range of the books has just blew up. So it's very competitive. At the same time, there are a lot more editors and imprints out there that deal in YA. I think that I'm not sure that there's anything in particular about writing for YA that's a challenge that isn't applicable to any form of publishing. If anything, it has a wide berth right now. It has a lot of there's a lot of call for it. It is competitive, and you really do have to know your audience. It's not. You have to. I would just say read a lot of YA to get a sense of it, because it's people, I think, get the sense that you're somehow talking down or making a simplistic story. Right. There's nothing simplistic about it. The only difference between a YA novel and any other novel is usually the age of the protagonist.
And to get a young adult's attention is a lot more difficult than an adult in so many ways.
I think it's the other way around.
Really? Oh, really? Okay.
I really do.
I'm just thinking more like, a TikTok or certain social media to get them interested. It's harder to get them engaged. So you think it's easier in books? Yeah.
I think it's the other way around. I tend to find that YA readers are voracious. They will read across genres. They will read, whereas adults, I think, get more fixed in one area that they read. They might read only mysteries or books about submarines or books about people who kiss on a bridge or something. YA readers they'll go to fantasy, they'll go to mystery, they'll go to contemporary, they'll read romance, and in the same breath, they'll read a space opera. It's really astonishing. And they also give you a lot of feedback. They get in touch with you and they let you know, good, bad, whatever. They really engage with the work. Also, they have to read it for school a lot. So sometimes it tends to be like a built-in thing.
Yeah, that is kind of like a built-in audience because they're ready for it. They're ready for what's next because they're going to have their everything they're going to need to do. What was your inspiration while writing Hello, Cruel Heart?
I started with just the image of the time, what London would have been like. Because again, World War II ends in 1945. So it's sometimes hard to remember how broken England was and how gray and how grim and how serious. And then all of a sudden, all of these young people kind of spring up like flowers in a billion colors and start wearing these extraordinary clothes and playing super loud music. And it's like, I always think of it like flowers or grass bursting out of concrete, that this really staid gray world kind of explodes in color. And it's very driven by music and my love of all the music of that time. And it's one of the few periods of fashion that I know anything about, because I'm not a clothes person except for then. So then I took everything that I'd seen was going to be created, what you're going to see in the film, which is a great story. And then, yeah, I just kind of rolled it back and tried to figure out what is just, if you're an orphan and you're a pickpocket in this particular area of London and your goal is to be a fashion designer, and there's a lot of room to play with there. It was a very big, very nice sandbox to work in.
I love it. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait.
I think it's to be really good.
So excited. When is this coming out? When can we see this? When? How long do we have to wait?
I think the date is the 28th of May, I think is when it comes out. It's something like the 28th of May.
So they got to read Maureen's book first before going to see the movie.
You don't have to, but hey,
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't say don't.
I'd say for sure. Okay, good, Pearl. Next question.
So Maureen, you touched my heart with talking about young writers. And so for that person that might be listening to this, that was like, I want to get in there, I want to start that path. What would you say to that person that's listening to us today? Where should they start? What should they be looking for within themselves?
Well, I think that one thing I always tell kids who say, I want to get published, is I always say there's that writing and publishing are completely separate. That writing is a behavior, it's a thing you do, it's the thing that you make. And publishing is the business that puts that thing into a box and sends it into the world. And it's got business stuff in it. It's got a lot of weird gears and moving parts. To concentrate first on making yourself as a writer, and as hard as it is, take your time, because the way you learn to write is by writing really badly and making a lot of mistakes. That's correct process. You have to really write badly and do it boldly. Just go for it. No one has ever died because of a bad piece of of a bad story that you wrote down. So spend your time, write. Don't be afraid of writing badly, and don't worry so much about the publication process. And to really give it time. That's my major piece of advice, because again, it's often a lot of teenagers that are asking me.
Interesting. And it's always about doing it for the love of what you do. And then a lot of times you do it with their love, for the love, and keep trying to improve and become better. Someday it will work out for you. And if it doesn't, then you really don't love it as much, or you find something that you're more passionate about that you're very good at. So it's great advice. And it's something that not just for young people, but people out there, Maureen, if you would love to be in your place, trust me, lots of authors out there, regardless of if it wasn't YA, but meaning successful as an author, best-selling author, they wish they could be there and how to do it and be published. And it's a dream of so many. And it's amazing to see, Maureen, when you agree, the amount of people now writing books. When they said, books were going passe, forget about it. And they just exploded with writing again, which is great, I think.
Books have never been passe. I mean, that's, people say all kinds of things.
I know. Okay. Endeavor.
I need my books. I need my bookcases. I need all of that.
Oh my goodness. Hello. Sorry. I've noticed you've been joined by somebody here.
Yes, that's the part of the Zoom for sure.
Is no, because I kept going, no. So no. His name was Mando. I went through all the Star Wars stuff. And now when I had them, Maureen, I had this complete Cruella de Vil moment when they were little kittens. And I'm like, oh, no wonder she liked to have it for a coat, because they're so soft. And
oh my goodness.
They wake me up every morning purring before my alarm goes off. And No likes to join us. Otherwise, he's making.
Yeah, but we've had other animals in the background of the other guests too, Maureen. So
Oh,
if
my
this-
dog's in the other room. She's big and goofy and would come bounding in here and knock everything over, and that's her style. So
See, luckily I'm not having the kids, and that's why I like doing Zoom now. Because when I have my professional mic, I figured out a way to turn it down and have the caller come in and no one hear it. But it's like, oh my gosh, maybe you'll hear it, but yeah, it won't show up in the recording. Oh, it's that kind of craziness that we deal with all the time.
Yeah.
We want that soundproof studio, which is there's no real way of doing it.
I'm amazed that there hasn't been any barking yet. It is a miracle.
So Maureen, I have a question. So where can everybody find you? What are your social media links, and tell us more about how they can search you out?
I'm on Twitter at Maureen Johnson. I'm on Instagram at Maureen Johnson Books, and I'm generally online at MaureenJohnsonBooks.com.
And you have a podcast too, so people can, yeah.
I do. It's called Says Who Podcast, and I started it 4 years ago with my friend Dan Sinker, who created the magazine Punk Planet, and it is it's sort of a weekly digesting the news chat, but it's built up into a very nice community of regular listeners that what I find really fascinating is sometimes you make something and then a community builds and they all make friends with each other and they start Facebook pages and they do projects together. So it's the magic of social media sometimes.
Yeah. It's finding your community and rolling through that community, finding your tribe. And it's sometimes finding that tribe is a very interesting thing because they have to create it to the way that you speak to your people. And once you find them, and sometimes you can create them, yet they really aren't your tribe. And you find that out later on. It's a process. It really is. All right, Jen, I know you have two questions for Maureen. First one is the gratitude moment, then send us off. So go ahead.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. And thank you, Pearl and Neil, for being here with us today, as well as you guys. You know, there's one question I always ask everyone that comes on the show, and that is, could you just give us one gratitude moment that brought you through this process with your book?
Well, I wrote it during the pandemic, so there was a lot of gratitude. I live in New York City, so it was written during the worst of the time here when we were really kind of genuinely barricaded inside. It was even dangerous to go in the hall. So I was very thankful just to sort of be safe and be able to do this for a job. I mean, it was very fundamental. And so this is a book I was writing from the safety of home. And I was like, thank you for the safe home. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who keeps us safe. This is that. I mean, it was a very fundamental thing.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan.
Hey everybody, this is Jen Mogg, Mother of Gratitude from the Gratitude Radio Network, where I hope that you are having gratitude in your day and bring it with you everywhere you go. And today there's something a little bit more magical in the air with gratitude. We have with us an amazing, amazing guest. And I can't wait to bring him in. But before, I want you to say hello to my co-host, Neil Haley. Hey, Neil.
Hey, what's going on, Jen? Excited about our guest. And I hope he doesn't make me disappear.
We'll keep you. We'll keep you. Pearl, we've got magic today. Magic is in the air.
Hey everybody, I'm so excited for today. This is going to be a fun show. I love magic. I love everything about magic. My son, when he was younger, he said he wanted to be a musician. So everywhere we went, we had to buy magic tricks. So I'm excited to have our guests. Go ahead and introduce them, Jen.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I was a kid, everybody just wanted me to disappear because they were so much older. But actually, our guest today has done so much with his life. He is called the Billionaire Magician, and he is amazing, often performing at the exclusive Magic Castle in Hollywood and for many corporate events. Welcome to the show, Dan Chan.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Pearl. And thank you, Neil, for having me.
Absolutely. And you already told us off before we went live that you have a trick for us.
Yes. So if you go over to our YouTube channels for all our hosts, you'll probably see this live. So that way you can actually understand what we're doing. But Jen, I wanted to ask, what are you most grateful for? Because you are the host of the Gratitude channel. So what is the thing that you're most grateful for?
Where I am in this life.
Where you are. Can you be a little bit more specific?
I would say more specific. At this moment in time in my life.
Just being in the moment at this point in time. Yes. That's really important that we be in this moment, because sometimes life rushes us by because we're doing so many things. But I did want to show you right here that this moment, at this moment, is what I wrote down. And that is what we call virtual mind reading. And I have pivoted to the virtual environment. For those of you who are just listening to the audio of this, I revealed exactly what she said. I wrote it down beforehand. And that is what we call mind reading.
Wow, I want to read your mind about when you talked about Google Ads after the show, but there you go. And I could read it now and say, we're fine. But Dan, oh, wow, I'm just blown away. So
let's do one more before we
yes.
talk about the marketing and all the other aspects of gratitude. So, Pearl, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to think of a playing card, any playing card at all. Just think of any playing card. Name it now.
5 of spades.
5 of spades. Interesting that you said 5 of spades, because often people think of the ace of spades, which would be too obvious. But I wanted to show you that I have right here a card that has 5 marked on it, and below that a spade. So that must mean that that is the 5 of spades.
Wow. Impressive. Oh my goodness gracious.
Dan, manifest me a man. Manifest me my soulmate. Can you bring him in? Can we bring him in? He's lost.
He's lost. Let's discuss that a little bit later. I think you need a personal consultation to talk about what you do and what this ideal person looks like. But let's broadcast that. What does he look like, Jen?
Well, he's taller than me.
He's taller than you? Okay.
He's taller than me. He's
How tall are you, Jen?
5'2" on a good day.
Okay. Oh, wow. He's not lost. You're just trying to narrow him down. He's not lost. Jen, Jen, are you picky, or is it just 5'2"? There's got to be a lot more to that than that.
No, there's a whole list of being an actor and artist, and
Oh, that's great. That's
somebody that
great.
understands my brain and how it works and all the wild ways. But I want to ask you, I mean, I grew up in a very magical type of way. How did magic enter your world growing up that brought you to where you are?
Yeah, I think the stories that connect, you never know looking backwards how those dots connect. Because my friend Ralph from Join Up Dots, the podcast, he said some things that were so poignant. I couldn't line everything up until looking backwards. So for me, it was small events like watching Copperfield on television, going to the theme park and seeing the local magician, and then meeting the best of the best, the greats like David Blaine and Chris Angel and Copperfield and all the guys behind the scenes from those guys. But the turning point was walking into the magic shop on 9th and Irving in San Francisco, a little shop called Misdirections Magic Shop.
Wow. Good, Pearl. We can't hear you, but go ahead.
Sorry, I said Misdirections Magic Shop. What a name for a magic shop, right? What's a cool name. So I want to know, I have a question. That is, what is the craziest read you've ever done?
Read or gig?
Yeah, like mind read. What's the craziest mind reading you've ever done?
Yeah, there is a lot. I that same effect, you would not believe what people have said. And I just read minds all the time. And I read the mind of people who worked at the CIA before. I've read the mind who, the CIA director was at one of my events. And I got to perform magic for the former CIA director, Leon Panetta.
Oh my goodness. So do people just when they get you on podcast, radio shows, or TV, do they keep asking you to read people's mind or not? Or you only perform a couple during usual interviews?
It's if you want to see the full mind reading show, we don't have there's a lot of Q&A today, but go to danchanmagic.com or Millionaires Mentalist, where you can get a ticket to my ticketed show. Of course, you three will get comps. You just have to let me know when when you guys can show up. But for everyone else listening, millionairesmentalist.com. That's a plural.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead, Jen, with your next question.
How much, when you're doing all of this, how much energy do you feel is taken from you, and how do you refill yourself?
Yeah, my wife feeds me really well, and those kilocalories keep me thin from all that work and stress. Believe it or not, this type of work requires you to project a lot. So the funniest thing is my family asked, Dad, how do you fall asleep? Like instantly, like literally when I lie down, I am out within typically 5 seconds. That's no joke. Like my brain literally shuts down because I'm recouping and I'm waking up like sometimes 4 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. and I'm going till 12. So I just literally fall asleep. And there's also those days where you take off, but I'm a little bit of a workaholic. So you probably should tell me what I need to be doing and telling me what that magic is, because I myself I felt like I'm always giving. I think I'm going to be on 5 Zoom calls today, and I just got off one literally 2 minutes before I jumped on here.
So I have a question. So Dan, do you ever turn it off? Like, we've talked to mediums before, and they're like, they feel like it's always on, right? Can you ever turn it off, or do you feel like you're always on? And then talk about, some coaching, like setting those boundaries of being like, can you turn it off? And can you say, I'm going to turn it off right now? And so how does that work? Or do you find you can never be off?
Yeah. You just have to disconnect from either your Wi-Fi or turn your computer off, or you turn off your Zoom, or you disconnect everything. It's mainly when I'm starting to talk to people, I turn it on. But I realized that my local people, I used to go to, the reason why I'm so successful is when I went to the dealership, they knew I was a magician. I would show them magic, and I would do everything around magic. And this is what Jeff McBride, one of the top guys at Magic, said, you just have to do it all the time and you'll get good at it. Now that I'm on a national level or international level, when I walk around, my car dealers guys don't know I do magic. They don't know anymore, because that's when I'm off. That's when I let them serve me. But before, I was pitching everyone, just like pitch, pitch, pitch. So biggest way to turn off for me is going to Catalina and spearfishing. I love windsurfing. I love indoor skydiving. And when I'm doing that, I'm doing activity. And to me, those activities keep me going.
And Catalina is a great place to do that. I love Catalina when I lived there.
How long did you live there, Pearl?
I was in California for over 12 years.
Okay. I worked at a camp called Campus by the Sea, and it was a Christian camp out there. But I also, lately, I've just been going there by myself to Avalon and renting an Airbnb. And when I'm there, I'm in the water. All work is off, at least for 8 hours. When I get back to my Airbnb, I'm working a little bit, but at least I've turned off for a while and I've gotten away from that media. So it's just really good. I find that I need a monthly vacation, if not every other month, because of the amount that I'm always on. I just need a monthly vacation. And I was just and I do a lot of work vacations too. I did an event where the client offered to pay my hotel and food and even treat me out to skiing in Huntsville, Utah for performing half an hour. And that was just a really cool event that we did recently.
Wow. So you're doing events outside, not just virtual anymore. You're starting to travel some.
I've done about 350 virtual events. And then I've done about maybe 11 or 12 live events. since March. So virtual looks like a continuing trend. And that's why you see me doing this big push. I reached out to you, Neil, and I'm reaching out to a lot of people because I think that's the biggest market out there, virtual right now, because of the global reach.
Yeah, global reach is an awesome thing. I've seen the global thing going global, and it's an interesting perspective to think about it, and not just the United States form for my business as well. So I understand completely. All right, Jen, next question.
I love that. Thank you, Neil. Dan, what are some of the things that corporations, when they book you, that they're looking for? But specifically, are they wanting to receive?
I'm the brand ambassador and representative. So I'm thanking their staff on the behalf of the manager. I'm giving them something different, but not only that, I'm giving them connection, because there's certain questions I'm asking in there that no one else can ask. Like, would you eat a rattlesnake? Or some things like that. Weird questions that relate to me, but also get the, like the icebreaker type questions. And those integrate because when I flip over a card, it says yes or no. And I know without a shadow of doubt what they will say, or that's at least the illusion of what happens. And I nail it every time. And that's such a great conversation starter, asking someone, would you eat a salmon heart while still beating? You never hear someone talk about that in magic show, but when it's integrated and the guy nails it 100% of the time, that's pretty interesting.
That's wild. So let's go back for a second to what Neil was asking. So when COVID came and you had to make the shift, did you find it was a hard shift for you to do to connect with your audience over Zoom?
If you're listening to this, I'm holding my head like this. The Hustle wrote an article about me when people started picking things up, but hopefully in the show notes we'll be able to include it. I was on CNBC, featured twice last year, but the first one was just talking about how I lost 8K in 1 week, and my family hated it. They're like, "Oh, why did you tell everyone that you lost, money?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm just being authentic. I'm getting any press that I can." But that came into, like, I told another reporter, "Hey, this is what's changed. I lost 8K in this month as reported on CNBC, but this is the possibilities." And then I started getting all these media mentions, and I'm like, well, I'm loving this platform better than live shows because I can give my clients the most value. Because I have a theater behind me that's beautiful. You can see this beautiful set behind me.
Right.
I can't normally do that when I'm doing walk around magic. Copperfield wouldn't go out of his theater to do some small events, but now we all have the opportunity to have our own theater. And to me, that was a powerful thing. But when I started telling people that story of no driving, no arriving an hour early, no setup time, which usually takes a lot if you're doing a big production, and then an hour driving back, that's 4 hours of time. Now I literally jump out of bed 10 minutes before the show, we run some music, and by the time this thing is over, I'm back with my kids. And I have more time to do. And that's how we've been able to do 12 shows in a day, 52 shows in a week.
Wow. Yeah. So that's gotta be exhausting, man. I mean, the virtual world has made me more exhausted, or you don't miss traveling.
I'm using all that. Well, what was exhausting before was yelling at the guy in front of me to like move a little bit faster, or like turning and be like, heck, this guy just cut me off. To me, that was exhausting. Now it's, how can I add more production value? How can I design a set? And to me, that feels a little bit less exhausting. It's exhausting giving energy. As you can see, I'm a high energy person, but people are attracted to that energy. Like they're like, "Oh, you're the most exciting person in the room with the energy you exude because you're smiling while you're talking." You've ever heard that sales thing, always smile while you talk? When I'm off, my cheeks hurt, like my cheeks relax, and I'm like, oh man, I can finally do, relax. But I am truly enthusiastic about this venue and this platform. So I really am smiling from the heart because I made it. And with everything that I know that's happened to many of us, we all need a glimmer of hope.
I love that. I think that was such a powerful statement. Everybody needed a glimmer of hope, and I remember traffic in LA, so I can totally relate to what you're saying, Dan. And so given that glimmer of hope, be able to do more shows. And now you're doing global, right? So are you, through all of that, what's been your biggest like takeaway from everything over the last year has brought you?
I should have focused bigger before the pandemic. You got me in the pandemic to reset my mindset, but sometimes it's a traumatic event that we have that realizes we need to kick our butt into gear. For example, I would never have tried posting to Instagram and TikTok and all these other places if it wasn't for the pandemic, because we were going through a rut. So you have to say, hey, I'm going to survive. I'm going to do it for myself and my family. And I'm going to do it for the people who are depending on me, but provide value first by doing, for me, it was doing these free shows. For you guys, it's you bringing people on and connecting people, and other people want to hear inspirational stories. One thing is, he who tells the best story in life wins. And that is taught to me by a magician. And often magicians hide behind a trick. But I think the metric of success is, can I do as little magic as possible and still be engaging? Because you notice, right, but when I first started, I did 2 effects, but we're still having a conversation. And that's the thing with most magicians, is they're that geeky person. They're hiding behind it. And often we're not vulnerable enough.
Why are you guys not so vulnerable? I mean, I know you're afraid of people stealing your signature stuff, but isn't there a level of vulnerability that brings you closer to the audience?
Yeah. But the thing is, you can't steal my stories. So even though you might steal one aspect of it, there's like a whole routine. And by the time people are stealing everything that you're doing, like people probably are doing that, they themselves know who they're stealing from. That's when you become Elvis famous and Marilyn Monroe famous. But then you're telling people, hey, these guys are the guys copying me, when they are copying you. You can just take credit for that, saying, hey, all the best have come through me. And that's when you start launching your coaching program. But most people are like, oh, I'm going to hide. And then they let us shirk themselves. Hey, this is who they are. Steal from other industries. Don't steal from your own industry. When you play in that industry, everyone feels like you're competing against the same people. Neil, you don't feel like you're competing against me because I've been on the show once. I'm not going into podcasts. I'm not going into radio. But when you go into a different dynamic, often you're talking the same shop talk and you feel like you're a competitor.
In some instances. Competitiveness can help grow you, right, Daniel?
Yeah. And competition is good for the customer. And if you think of the customer first, you're always going to succeed.
Because the customer might not see one magician, they'd rather be with another magician, but then that same counterpart will find their audience and you'll find yours.
Absolutely. You're just looking to make the thing bigger. But if everyone's doing the same thing, you're going to be at that level because you're competing against price. But if you saw me here and you saw me do that wonderful effect, and if a lot of people are doing it, you're still going to want me first. It's only when you can't afford me will you go to other people. In fact, no one can do that. If they're stealing it, sure. But I actually invented those 2 effects that I showed you because I'm showing my signature effects. I know people are going to steal it. It's just natural that we copy. And I think it's in our DNA. Think about this. When we replicate for children, it's from one adult and another adult, you're producing something. But people are telling themselves, hey, I'm cutting it off. I don't want you to replicate anything. But don't just steal from me, steal from one other person and show me something that I can appreciate after you stole it from me, and show me something different that I can be like, wow, that was really, really cool. I liked where you took it. As opposed to you stole from me and then steal from clients. And I think that's the biggest problem in Asia is they're copying, but they're not having that lifestyle where they're free enough where they can create. And once you start creating, then it doesn't matter if people are stealing from you because you're so far ahead. So I think it's a mindset that some like in Asia, I can say this because I'm Asian, is they don't have creativity experts. And I hope one day to go out there and say, hey, why don't you do this differently? If you're copying, you're only going to get what's left over. And that means a cheaper price. And that's shortchanging yourself. They're trying to sell to American markets when there's such a big market in Asia or other places, and they're making excuses because they don't realize what they're doing in different cultures. And I learned this because I analyzed myself and I asked myself, what am I doing right and what am I doing wrong? And I was really, I wouldn't take any BS from the feedback that I gave myself and other people gave me. Is people will criticize, and you ask yourself, how can you make yourself better?
Dan, what are some of the ways that you sharpen your skills, like mind reading, like what you were doing this when we started out and reading, what am I grateful for in this moment? And then it turns it over and there you are in this moment. How do you sharpen yourself and keep yourself sharp with all of your magic?
The magic that I'm doing is, so the magic that I'm doing is really powerful, but it's an illusion. But it's so strong that people believe it to be real. And people ask me, how do you do your mind reading? It's actually a magic trick, but it's done in such a direct, theatrical way that it compels people to suspend the reality. And it is a magic trick. But when you see me put everything together, when you watch my full hour show, you're like, wow, I still don't know how he does it. This is real magic. And they don't start thinking of it as magic trick. They associate it with mind reading, like you just did.
I mean, you keep it new, you keep it fresh, you keep it going so that every time it's like the first time it's ever been done. And it seems so sharp.
So Daniel, you could read my mind anytime you wanted to. Is that true or not?
Absolutely.
Then that's not magic. That's real.
It's part of the illusion. It's part of the smoke and mirrors. And it's part of the mystery. Like, for example, in a moment, I'm going to ask you all to repeat after me. 10, 14, 16.
10,
10, 14, 16,
18, 22, 24.
18, 22, 24.
Let's try that one more time. 18, 22, 24.
18, 22, 24.
Name a vegetable now.
Broccoli.
Cauliflower.
Jen?
Zucchini.
Perfect. That lets me know a lot about who you are. And it also lets me frame certain things as well.
What are we framing?
Let's see what he's doing.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so with that, I can understand where you're going, and let's do this real quick. In a moment, you are going to choose a book. You will either choose Totally Free Will or Preserving Mystery. There's $100 on the line right now. Let's get Pearl to choose one of these books. I'm going to PayPal or Venmo you $100 if I get this wrong. Which book would you like?
Totally Free Will.
There is no such thing as totally free will. And that is why I wrote, you will choose this book. Neil, what are you thinking right now?
Thinking of what? Thinking I want the $100.
Interesting.
I would have picked the blue one.
And it also says,
And not this book.
I didn't see what it said.
Not this book.
so let's go one step further. Pearl, name any two-digit number between 1 and 50 with both digits being odd and both digits being different.
You lost me.
Neil, go ahead and do that.
Say it again. Repeat.
Number between 1 and 50 with both digits being odd and both digits being different.
I got it.
All right, got it.
Go ahead.
Who? Me?
Neil, please.
73.
No, between 1 and 50.
What am I doing?
Jen, what was your number?
47.
For both being odd and both being different.
Okay,
odd.
I see. So that's where I did. So,
35.
Pearl, that's interesting that you said that, because when people who say 35 are a lot easier manipulated, because I have that right there, 35.
oh my goodness.
So when you get better and better at this, you nail things and you're able to bring people to that one collective spot. When you narrow things down, you're only giving them so many options. And then once they fit within that criteria, you're literally reading their mind in quotations.
So do you ever miss a question? Are you ever wrong?
You know, I was just kind of wrong because you guys were wrong. You notice that I only failed because you didn't follow the instructions properly. And some of mind reading is about like pacing and following, or future pacing. It's kind of like you can't be wrong if you've brought them along the journey. If you said everything right, I have what magicians call outs and precautions. I have something for everyone. And so it's like this choose your own adventure. When you open this door, I have a response for it, because there's only certain ways people will respond. People will say, do that with my money. And then I'll change $1 and $100. Do that with my money. I'll give me your money. And then I'll do a trick with it, or I'll make a joke out of it, or I'll do something. But as original as most people think they are, they're not original. There's formulas for that. Just like there's formulas for success, or, people are like, oh, how do you become famous? Well, you go meet as many people as possible and go to their spheres of influence and get to that. So what I do is I do a formulaic approach to magic and mind reading. A lot of mind reading is magic, but layered in a very, very theatrical way. And it's done so well that you don't even realize you're watching magic.
So I have a question. You've mentioned your kids. I don't know how old your kids are. However, my question is, are they wanting to follow in Dad's footsteps, and are they doing some magic themselves today?
He might answer that himself if he's actually right behind me on that set, and he may jump right in. Maybe he won't. But in any case, I'll give you a quick rundown. My son at age 5 was juggling 3 balls. By age 8, he was juggling 5 balls. By age 10, he was juggling 3 flaming torches and picking pockets. By age 12, he had 2 television credits.
And by age 13, he's eating applesauce.
He might not go into magic, because he might go into comedy.
Oh, so Dan, have you been on any show, like you've been on all these others, but you've ever been on any sitcoms yet, or anything where you've appeared yet? Is that coming soon?
Yeah, once one of your listeners who watches said, hey, we want you to do a cameo and jump on there. I'm open to that. I would love that, because my son's been on more television than I have been, and I want those residual checks as well. I just filmed the documentary, which I'm going to maybe we'll throw in the show notes. I'm thinking I may at one day do unscripted reality, which is a broader base, or I might do a magic special, but I'm actually leaning more toward unscripted reality, because what I have, I think, fits within that format, because I have a family aspect, I have a visual aspect, and we have a storyline and art, because it's interesting watching people grow up. Why did we watch Growing Pains, or these interesting families like Full House? Why were they such popular? It's because there were kids in it. There were families, and you're watching them grow up and doing the silly things.
Why did we watch WandaVision? Because they were kids.
Okay.
I think he's going to be a comedian.
And look at it.
The vision. Walk the vision.
Look, he could be a comedian as long as he doesn't have to ask Dad for money. I'm happy. In fact, he's saying, Dad, you're making money off me. We salaried him, and he is doing such a great job. When people can't hire me, they're hiring James. And he just did 2 corporate events for $400 each.
James.
Ah, okay. So
no, Neil, you cannot adopt him.
Godmother.
You cannot adopt him.
I wasn't
I know what
thinking
you're
that,
thinking.
Dan. So there you go.
I so wanted a boy.
You want so basically, how can
Apparently,
your
I'm a
act,
strategic
your
asset.
interview work well on radio?
To be honest, that one effect, if we're on live radio, sure, I can do something there, but pre-recorded radio, it's really hard. But if we're doing live radio, I actually have some tricks I would do right now for you, but I can't do those because it's not live in the moment.
But you were live on your YouTube channel earlier, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
I was live on YouTube once in a while.
No, I mean just before. Okay. So,
Oh,
all right,
on Zoom.
so-
I was on Zoom before this happened.
Okay.
Before we were here.
Okay, so let's go back to Jen. Jen, you have 2 questions that you always would ask Dan or any of our guests because with this, he's put us totally in a different conversation. He would be perfect. He would be perfect live on Clubhouse. Just trust me on that. He would be hilarious. But go ahead and or Fireside because I can say the name. But go ahead, Jen, with your 2 questions you usually ask our guests.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have had so much fun, as my boys have to, because they always crash my set just like yours. Could you share with us a gratitude moment that pivoted your world into where you are now?
The gratitude moment is for me, my wife putting up with all the crap I do and sticking by my side because I know how stressful it is, how much stress I put her through because I'm always changing things up and I'm always doing things at the last minute. And when you want to steer something like a larger boat and you want to get somewhere, you need to turn that wheel earlier or you're going to crash. And I've crashed this boat quite a few times and my wife has been bailing water and plugging things and doing everything. So my gratitude moment is my wife just sticking it through with me because last year or any other year, or, I don't know how I would have stuck around, just to be honest, but she stuck around and she's been my rock. This whole set behind me, she built, and she's put a little bookcase there. She moved my studio from the other side. I think we've done like 5 or 6 studios. And it was stressful. Now we're just still going full steam ahead, but I realized that I would not been able to do this without her.
How beautiful. How beautiful. What would you attest is one of the secrets or magical moments in your marriage that keeps you guys together?
At one point, counseling. And the will to stick it through, because I think we all go through those rough patches. And I didn't realize how big a jerk I was. And she stuck it through because a lot of times people these days will, cut the cord a lot sooner. And that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I so appreciate you being on the show. And where can they find your information and book you for their events?
I'm online on Airbnb Experiences with a magic show. Right now the show's called Powerful Magic and Mind Reading, but the show changes quite often, so it may be under something different. But if you go to Dan Chan Magic or millionairesmentalist.com, and that's millionaires plural, you can see a sample of our virtual work, which we're really proud of because this is really cutting edge stuff. This is stuff that people don't see. It's not your typical doves or rabbit from hat or linking rings. It is the next wave of magic. I used to do all that and more, but I found that mind reading is very powerful.
Well, we appreciate this. This is so awesome. Pearl, I think, had a blast too, right, Pearl?
Oh, I had a blast. And can I just, Daniel, just thank you for somebody who's been married for over 30 years. I just love that you are so vulnerable and honestly answer that question. And thank you, because not many men will answer that question the way you did. So thank you for being honest and letting us see that vulnerable side of you.
Yeah, thanks.